After playing in just one match his freshman year, Tyler Dayhoff saw an increase in playing time as a sophomore, logging between 30 and 40 minutes in each of the first two matches of the 2018 campaign. The Trojans took on Judson in their third match of the season. About 20 minutes in, Dayhoff entered the contest for TU. A few minutes later, the Eagles were awarded a corner kick.
I'm like, all right, if this comes to me, I'm just going to head it out and we're just going to move on to the next play. So it came to me. I remember heading the ball out of the box, and I remember turning and taking about 2 steps, and I just fall straight to the ground. And I just remember being in probably some of the most pain I've been in. And I was like, all right, let's try and get up. Let's try and see if I can keep moving. And I could not get myself up.
Dayhoff was able to borrow a pair of crutches to get around with the team after the match. Following a conversation with athletic trainer Joe Walter, Dayhoff went to bed that night hoping his right knee would be better in the morning.
And I remember getting out of bed, and I was like, my right knee is maybe double the size of my left knee right now. And I was like, all right, well, we got to get ready. I think we had some things planned or church or something to that extent. And I know we were going bowling later that day. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll try bowling. So I, tried to get ready, get in the shower. And I was like, I can't stand on this for more than 5 minutes. And I was like, I'm afraid I'm going to probably fall over or just something is going to happen. So going through that day was just a pain to get around.
Once the Trojans returned to campus, Dayhoff had his knee checked out by Walter. He would then have an MRI later that week with team physician Gerald Cooper of Fort Wayne Orthopedics and Optimum Performance Sports. The days that followed that MRI were taxing on the then sophomore.
I know I started to get a little frustrated, anxious, confused at God and where I was going. So it was a lot of why are you putting me through this? I spent all this time and effort into soccer all before college. Now I'm coming here and it's can't catch a break. And you just start to take your anger out in prayer on others. You kind of be short with others, and it's kind of like you're just playing this waiting game and you're not really focused on everything that's present in front of you.
Dr. Cooper told Dayhoff he would call him with the results of the MRI. The day came, and Dayhoff's phone rang.
I remember, seeing the Fort Wayne number pop up, and I'm like, all right, here we go. So I take the phone call, and long story short, he's like, you tore your ACL, you tore your meniscus. We'll talk later once you talk with Joe to figure out a plan, figure out all this stuff that you need to go through. And I think I remember just feeling just everything rush out of my body, like the breath taken out of me, and just season's gone. Because when you hear that, that's 6+ months of recovery just to get back to square one, basically. And so you're just sitting there and you're just like what do I do? And you still don't know, you still don't know those next steps, you still don't know the plan. And so you just start to become frustrated. And I remember being with my fiance now, and she had been through this.
His fiance is former TU basketball player Sydney Huffman. Her knee injury occurred about 9 months before Dayhoff injured his knee. The two started dating in between their respective setbacks.
God really gripped me through the injury and through meeting her, and having her been through that was just a way for us to grow our relationship and bond. But it was a way that I could vent to somebody that was like, all right, you understand what I'm talking about and what I'm going through right now. And she was huge, from driving me to classes to just, randomly checking up, hey, are you doing your exercises? You've got to get back to square one. You've got to do these things. And it got annoying, but it was helpful for someone to be there to just keep me on track and to keep me going forward, because I don't know that I would have been able to do it just by myself.
The injury did allow Dayhoff the opportunity to help the Trojans in a new way, by being the biggest encourager on the sidelines for his teammates. Dayhoff says this new role brought him a lot of joy.
And it just also, I think, sparked my faith a little bit more, just in the fact that, God's in control of this, and all this stuff that maybe I find myself spending a lot of time in or devoting a lot to can be taken away so fast. And that's not a big deal. And it's okay for that to happen, because at the end, God's in control of it. And if he wants to take it away, whether that's for good or just for a little bit, he knows what's best for me. And I think at that time in my life, that was what was best for me. And I know I've told people this, but I'd go through that injury multiple times to learn the same lessons and to grow just because it was that impactful.
Following his rehab, Dayhoff was allowed to return to playing soccer in the mid to late spring, but stayed away from drills that had a lot of contact. Dayhoff continued to ramp up his training over the summer back home in Beaver Creek, Ohio, including playing in matches in a local indoor rec league. The forward would join his Taylor teammates later that summer on the team's trip to Ireland.
Joe, our athletic trainer, was coming with us, and it was going to be an exciting trip. And you're just like, all right, here we go. I'm playing again, starting to get everything. Everything's feeling all right. Like, let's do it. So there was just a lot of excitement and feeling like I was, more a part of the team now, being able to play, and just the fact that things were starting to go my way again and just feeling a little more on top of the world.
But sadly, all of that excitement would be short-lived for Dayhoff. Halfway through the second match in Ireland, he felt a pain in that right knee once again. Dayhoff called Walter over to take a look.
And I started to be overcome with some emotion of just, maybe thinking back to the pain I had felt the first time of like, it's a little similar, but I'm able to at least move a little more. So I remember Joe coming over and he's doing the test again, and he kind of gives me this look, and I remember him kind of overcome with a little emotion as well. And he just looks at me, and I was like, you don't have to say anything. Like, it's all right. And at that point, I was just kind of like, all right, we'll move on. We don't have to talk about it. Like, we're not, this isn't a for sure thing. Maybe it's torn again. Maybe it's not. I mean, we won't know till we get back to the States. And so I remember sitting on the sidelines watching them play a man down and just sitting there kind of super emotional and frustrated again, back in the same spot I was a year ago, thinking of like, if this is torn again, I'm gonna have to go through everything I just went through again. And I know I had said, I'd go through it again and again and again if I could, but when you're in that moment, you're kind of like, I have 2 more years left of this college soccer and then it's gone. And it hit me super hard right then. So
Dayhoff turned to prayer and his teammates to help pick his spirits up. And prayer, specifically prophetic prayer, was the sermon topic at a local church Dayhoff and the team attended shortly after the pain in his knee started. Towards the end of the sermon, members of the church came up front if they felt called to prophetically pray over someone in attendance that day.
They have some worship music, we're singing, worshiping, and I remember Joe being on my left and Luke Williams, a graduate from last year, on my right. And people are walking up to pray with these people, have some sincere prayers. And I just remember this one guy, he's starting to walk down the aisle and he kind of makes eye contact with me. And I'm like, all right, this is weird. Like, I'm trying to worship, And so he walks by and he starts moseying his way through the row. And he kind of puts his hand on my shoulder and I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, can I pray over you? I was like, oh, for sure. Like, I'd love that. And he said, I just have this, I feel like I've been given this sense that you've been going through some hard stuff recently and you've been maybe holding back a lot of your anger, frustration or whatnot towards God. And I just want to tell you that, he forgives you for all of that. And it's okay to just let it all out, to just ask for that forgiveness and to, just repent of those things. But, he's got you and you're going to be all right. And I know at that point, my heart is like pounding. I'm sweating a little bit. I'm like, there's no way that this guy just said all this. Maybe, I'm just dreaming of this, but it was so real because I could see the guys around me, my teammates, just they're starting to hear what he's saying and pick up. And I was just like, this is unreal. So he prays, and I remember telling him, like, thank you. You don't know how much that meant to me, and I don't know where you're necessarily getting all of that information or sense of maybe the Holy Spirit's leading you, whatever that may be, but it was beyond moving. And I remember walking out just mind blown, speechless, just taken away. Like, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know how to describe this to somebody, because even explaining it right now, I mean, it's one of those things, being in that moment, you just feel like God, like I just felt like God was just directly talking to me. And that was something I absolutely needed to hear right then.
Numerous delays turned the trip home for the Trojans into an almost 24-hour affair. Upon arriving at the airport in Indianapolis, Dayhoff's mom picked him up, and the two drove to Dr. Cooper's office for another MRI. But this time, Dr. Cooper's phone call brought good news. The MRI did not show anything wrong with Dayhoff's knee. Before rejoining his teammates, Dayhoff was fitted for a custom knee brace.
I'm like, man, this is annoying. Like, I don't want to wear this thing. It's scraping my right leg up. It's hitting my left leg, scraping that up. And I'm like, Joe, do I really have to wear this? And he's like, no, like, with everything that's happened, you just need to wear it because it helps me, it helps you. And I remember being a little fearful also when Dr. Cooper had told me, hey, I think you're good to go. There's a little more fear in me, of, well, man, this could happen again. Like, I could go out and practice and this could be the last time, but I don't know. And so it also changed my mindset of, this could be my last practice. This could be my last game, but let's go all out and enjoy this right now because tomorrow isn't promised. The end of this practice isn't promised. This next drill isn't promised. So let's just give it all I got right now. So I started to take that into my game and in approaching every practice and everything. And wearing this brace became a little bit more of a symbol for me that that fear was eliminated when I wore the brace of maybe re-tearing it or hurting myself. And it was more of like, this is an example of God surrounding my life and protecting me in all situations.
Dayhoff would see the field in 5 matches in 2019, including his first career start. This past fall, the now senior capped his career by scoring his first career goal in his final collegiate contest.
I mean, I give a lot of credit to Clay for hitting a bad cross. And just, I mean, it wasn't obviously the prettiest goal that could have been scored, but it's like, a goal is a goal. And just to see the ball go in the back of the net and to have that feeling of like, wow, I just scored. Like, I went from where I was freshman year to now, and it didn't hit me till after the game, just sinking in because you're so dialed in and focused. But definitely still overcome with emotions. I know I've said that a lot, but you're just filled with all of this and you're just filled with so much joy that it paid off. It paid off, and it was worth going through all of that. It was worth, maybe not playing as much as I wanted to at the beginning of senior year, or it was going through all the stuff that I did in Ireland or my sophomore year when I first got hurt. But all of this led up to that moment and playing well and finally having confidence in myself and how I was playing and scoring. It was awesome. And I don't think I could have written the better story for myself in these 4 years.